Yes, guys, welcome back to another stream. It is Savio season, but will it ever be CDM season? That's the question. I don't know if it's going to ever be CDM season, man. We're being linked with no one. I don't know where the news is, but we'll see. Maybe this is maybe this could kick us into gear, right? Guys, do me a favor. Make sure you guys smash a like. Make sure you guys are subscribed. Make sure you guys are following Noisy Pod as well on all the platforms, apart from one snaky platform, which we don't speak about. So, yeah. Move, thank you for coming on, man. How are you doing? You well?
I'm brilliant, mate. Really buzzing today. I don't know what happened to me this morning, but I was just driving along and all of a sudden got really energized about the upcoming season. I don't know if it's,
Me too.
they're about to come over here. I'm in the States, yeah. So I'm in Texas, and they're about to come over across the pond here in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to go to one of the games. Joey and I are going to go to the one in Columbus, Ohio, against Chelsea. So I think that's part of my excitement. But I don't know. I think I've fully put like the summer tournaments to bed. You know, the Euros and the Copa America. That's behind me now, and a lot of the toxicity about individuals in those summer tournaments has died down. So now it's time to look ahead, and then unbeknownst to me, we signed somebody today, so that's only added to the excitement. And yeah, then you messaged me, so it's all coming together, mate. Although, can you please? I mean, I've heard a rumor that man got bit by a spider or something. What's that about?
Nah, bro. I'm being real, yeah. It was move.
It was no good.
It was peak, bro. It was not good. It was the yeah. Honestly, genuinely, I had to get antibiotics, bro. It was that bad.
Wow.
Yeah, man. You know what I mean?
Were it a spider?
Was it a spider? Nah, it was a fly.
Some Peter Parker type shit.
Nah, it was a fly, man. But yeah, I don't know what happened. You know, I don't know what happened to it, but it just blew up, man. And my leg was just like proper huge. I thought I had gout or something like that. It was
no.
It wasn't looking good. But listen, went to the pharmacy. Woman sorted me out. Got the antibiotics. A couple of days later, we're sorted. So yeah, but obviously the hay fever kicked my ass. Now I've got this COVID/flu/ don't know what it is.
Oh,
you know
no,
what I mean?
mate.
So basically, yeah, I'm saying this. I think I need to start eating some more oranges for the vitamin C. You know,
good shout.
Is what it is, isn't it? The carnivore diet would not do well on me. You heard about the carnivore diet?
Yeah. I quite like that, to be fair.
Why have you done it?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah. I mean, in so much as like low carbs, no sugar. You know, yeah, it's similar.
Yeah, it's meant to be that people say it's good, isn't it?
No, it is. It works. It works for me, in fact. So yeah, and fasting.
Oh, I like fasting. I think fasting is like proper health benefit.
If you combine those two, if you can combine fasting and like low carb, no sugar, that's amazing in itself. But then if you can add exercising on top of that, it's just mad what happens to you.
Nah, listen, the health thing is crazy, isn't it? You know what I mean? And this is the thing about the health, right? Yeah, all you gotta do is try it. You just try it out, and if it don't work for you, no problemo. You know what I mean? Like, if you start seeing double, fucking hell, stopping it and eat something else. But like, you can only try it. You know what I mean? I agree on the fasting thing. I've spoken to the chat bare times about the fasting. I think fasting is like a unlocked superpower that we have.
And your body tells you too. You start feeling great, and your body's basically telling you, hey, you're doing the right thing here. So
yeah. No, I agree. Speaking about doing the right thing, City did the right thing today by announcing Savio. I can't lie, yeah. He got me gassed. Like I was on a stream this morning, right? You know what I mean? Sometimes I'm like, you know what I mean, dancing around and that, you know, trying to get the chat. You know what I mean? We're living in a miserable world. I'm trying to entertain the chat. But actually, genuinely, today, I was like so excited about Savio. Like I don't really know why. I've only watched him about 10 times or something, but I don't know. Maybe it's just something different out on that right hand side. Obviously, he said he wants to play out on the right. That's his favorite position. But I don't know what your take on it was. And obviously, we've known it's going to happen for a while, which again is why I was why I was so buzzing, given we know we was going to sign him for like the last 6 months. I don't know, but what was your take on the signing of Savio? So it sounds like he's going to stay. It sounds like he wants to compete for the right wing spot.
Yeah, I'm gassed like you are, mate. I've just been thinking about what next season might look like, and based on what we saw last season, even some of the biggest teams in the world were trying to play really deep against us, and I just felt like from that right-hand side, we didn't have much of a threat going on. Doku was better on the left at it than he was on the right, and I just thought if you can get something similar going on the right, that we should be that should be really successful for us, because I just feel like the more that your Arsenals and your Real Madrids come and they get results by sitting really deep, I think more people are going to try it than even do now. I mean, it's already a very high percentage of teams that try that against us, because it really does stifle us, and it's the best way, I think, for them to get results. So the more sort of low block pickers we can add into the 11, I think the better we'll be this season. So yeah, I'm super excited about Savio. I'm like you. I've only seen a few. I've seen some YouTubes and that, and I know he picked the number 26, which I really enjoyed. I think that gassed me up quite a bit, because like you, massive Riyad Mahrez fan, and that sort of, it was all a bit sourceless on the right wing last season. I think Bernardo can do it, Phil can do it, but they don't do it with that elegance that Mahrez does, and I'm seeing similar things in Savio as well. So, and you saw it with the guy, the young lad from Spain in the Euros.
Oh,
it's very similar stuff. Yeah. So
yeah,
maybe even Savio looks like a bit better dribbler than Lamar to me. But anyway, I'm super gassed like you, mate. I was really pining for Cole Palmer on that right wing, and hopefully Savio can put my Cole Palmer.
No, listen, the thing is with the Savio thing, right, is I agree with you 100% on the right wing situation. I think that Bernardo Silva does a really good job on that right wing, and I think he's a bit underrated. However, last season he probably had his worst season in the City kit, if we're being honest. Yeah, if you was to
quietest,
if you was to rank his best season to his worst season, right? I'd be surprised if last season wasn't at the bottom. That's not to say it was crap or anything. I'm just saying, like, genuinely.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, it wasn't always that effective. The problem that we have is that Grealish out on that left-hand side doesn't score goals, and he doesn't create goals. That's just a fact throughout his whole career.
Yeah.
Bernardo Silva is not really a big goal scorer and assister.
Nope.
Now, if you were to play, I know we got Doku, but if you play Grealish and Bernardo, two of your front three statistically don't score and don't assist. That's a problem when what happens is what you just mentioned, when teams start to sit back. And it becomes more of a problem when the bigger teams start sitting back against us. Because in the past, generally what's happened is, teams in mid-table towards the bottom of the league, they all come, they sit back, and we find a way to break them down. The bigger teams, the better teams, don't do that. They say, we're not doing that. We're going to take them on. And then generally, we've had quite a lot of success. Last year, we've seen it in the two biggest games really of the season, Real Madrid and Arsenal, they both sat back. And that probably tells you that they respect us and know just how good we are and feel that that's probably the only way to get a result. But we've got to think about what we can do, because clearly we didn't win any of those games. So that's a problem. So I think having an extra player who's a little bit more direct, who can get on the score sheet, create a little bit more, is going to benefit us. I still think obviously having Grealish and Bernardo is good, because you've got the options. And I've always said, I love it when managers have options. You know what I mean? I felt that was one problem that we had last year on the wings. Pep didn't really have too many options, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? So especially out on that right, because he clearly doesn't really fancy Doku much on that right-hand side. So you pretty much just got Bernardo, and then either maybe Bob or who's obviously still very young, or Foden, who we don't really want to be playing on the wings.
The problem added to that, LB, is that you don't get anything from Kyle Walker on the right, creatively, attacking wise. So it's almost like a dead right wing if Bernardo's not popping off, and you don't really want Foden out there. You want him more central.
Do you remember seeing the stat that City had the lowest percentage of attacks down our right-hand side in the Premier League?
I don't, but that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, because I remember when I was doing the El Bin show with Nobbins, and he mentioned our right-hand side, and he basically said what you just said there about
Dead.
how and then we found a stat, and City's percentage of, like, because obviously you got the left, the central, and then the right, we had the lowest percentage of attacks through the right-hand side as a percentage of our overall attacks. And you're absolutely spot on. Kyle Walker doesn't offer you enough going forward. And Bernardo last year, he just wasn't, whether it wasn't at the races or whether the way that teams set up against him, whatever, I don't really care, to be honest with you. The end result is there was a lot of games where he wasn't that effective, to be honest with you. So I think this is just a great signing. The price is obviously fantastic, 21 million quid. How we manage that? That's insane.
That your tweet made me laugh, mate.
I love Twitter. I love it. It's so easy.
How have we managed that? He says
it's so easy to rattle people nowadays. Honestly, man, it's not a challenge anymore. Honestly, I come in here, I come on YouTube, right? I do a stream. I do a mutant stream. I go off the league gunner thing. I do a mutant stream. Great. Oh, they just rock up. It's like I've got candy floss just handing it out. It's insane. And Twitter, oh my God, Twitter. I don't even have to think about what I write someone on Twitter. Just like, I'm going to wind someone up here. Bang, 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 bang. Tweet. And then you know what I do? Mute. I mute the tweet because that's the best thing. I know I've got a load of random people responding, hating on it. And I don't even see it because I've muted
fish in a barrel.
Yeah, exactly. But no, listen, I think it's a great deal. It's a great signing. I think we needed a right winger. Obviously, after last year, where that leaves Oscar Bob, of course, I think it just means that he's got to fight for his position. I think he's a very, very good player, Oscar Bob, and I still think he's going to get minutes next year.
Let's talk about him for a minute, yeah? Okay, let's go a little bit bigger picture. Joey and I did a podcast on what we thought, even though we had a fantastic season last year, like what were maybe some of the weaker elements of the game for City. And I thought it was creativity in the middle when you're missing Phil or Kevin, right? That was, I thought, our biggest weakness. Even though we were great, I thought that was our biggest weakness, and therefore the thing that we needed to address the most, whether it be in the transfer window this summer or with existing talent that we've got, right? So I know a lot of people talking about the number one priority being a Rodri, backup, replacement, whatever term you want to use. I would actually argue that I'm more worried about what happens if either Phil or Kevin cannot play. I just thought it again got a bit dead in the middle when one of those two was out and we were facing a low block. So I think for me the answer could be Oscar Bob, because I think Oscar Bob works creatively in tight spaces as good as anybody at the club. I think probably up there with Foden. The quickness of his feet and the quickness of his mind in those tight spaces, I think is fantastic. So I wonder if he could not be the answer to the problem that I've suggested would be our main weakness going into the season. This is why I also really enjoyed Dani Olmo in the Euros. I thought, maybe somebody who could fill in when Phil and Kevin can't play centrally. Olmo would be a good fit there.
You think we've missed a trick, Dani Olmo? 50 million release clause? The problem that I have with it, more, if we've got Olmo, I think he's too good for the role that we would have asked him to do.
I think he would know he's not as good as Foden and De Bruyne and be all right rotating in. Because he's not that big a name. Like, a lot of people turn their noses up when they hear Dani Olmo's name in City. A lot of City fans do. I just think he might be the right profile, the right level of of player that would tuck in just behind Phil and Kevin and be all right. With it.
I think he's definitely good enough. I just don't know whether he'd accept that role, because
it's possible.
If Foden and KDB didn't get injured and they stayed fit, you've really got to question where his minutes would come from. He would get minutes, of course. I'm not saying he wouldn't, but how many games realistically would he be starting? I don't know. I think that You got Phil, you've got Kev. I completely agree on Oscar Bob. I've seen him a lot in the academy.
Okay,
Seen him play left-hand side, right-hand side, and central. And the best I ever seen him was when he played in the central positions because he finds the pockets. He reminds me a lot, and I hate saying this, but I'm just going to say it because it reminds me of the way he plays. It reminds me of David Silva when he's in the pockets. Now, so a lot of people probably not seen that yet because you've not seen him centrally. But when you see him centrally, you'll know what I mean. I'm not saying he's as good as David Silva, of course, but the way he drops the shoulder, puts a ball in behind the defender, it's very, very David Silva-esque in the way that he plays.
Yeah,
so
that goal he scored in the Champions League reminded me of David Silva for sure.
Oh, against Red Star.
Yeah.
Yeah, great goal. Yeah, no. Listen, he's definitely an option. I know a lot of people probably don't want to hear this, but whilst he's still at the football club, I still think you're going to get Alvarez in the midfield in some minutes because otherwise he's not going to play football for us. Of course, he might leave this summer. I still think he'll probably stay. But I think we probably just got enough there. Foden, KDB, Alvarez, and Bob. Alvarez, obviously, we don't really like seeing him there, but he's going to play there. And obviously, Bob is your sort of young player. So I actually think that our attack is looking pretty good.
Yeah.
Barring a major injury to maybe Kevin or Phil, because I think if we get another 6-month injury like we did with Kevin last year, that I think then you look at Phil, Bob, and Alvarez, it don't look too great. But if you can keep them fit for the majority of the season, I think our attack and our attacking midfield, I think it's quite deep.
Yeah, I'm not really gagging for anybody else after Savio now. So yeah. Sorted. And I'm like, yeah, I trust Bob. I trust if, like you said, if Kevin or Phil do get injured, I would play Bob in there. I have that confidence in him.
Yeah, and if you don't, sell him, loan him.
Well, exactly.
Because if you don't have the confidence in the players, you got to get rid of them. There's no point in keeping a player because this is what some people do. They go, oh no, we can't loan them because if we loan them, then they'll never make it at City because they have that opinion. Right? Well, are you willing to play him? No. Well, what do you want to do then? It's like you're hoarding. You're scared of playing the big games, but you don't want to loan them. You're hoarding the player. So if you want to keep them, you've got to play them at certain points. Let me have a look at some of these chats that are coming. Big up to LB. Says Savio already has my heart with his Mahrez comment. Facts, bro. He knew what he was doing, man. He knew what he was doing. 100%.
That gassed me up. I saw that number.
Yeah, same. What a guy. What a guy. He also says United signing Ugarte. They are spending loads. Well, they're spending a lot of money. They've just agreed personal terms in the last hour with Ugarte as well. So they're spending the money. Move CDM position for City. Well, what's your take on this? Like a lot of some City fans, I'm on my way. It's getting a little bit anxious about this because I really think that we need a backup replacement for Rodri. I think if we don't get one, it's really poor. Obviously, the window's been open a bit now. Like, what's your take on this? Do you think City's taking the time? Are we trying to play a hard ball with Newcastle over Bruno? Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah, it's really interesting, this one. And it's been an interesting discussion for going on 12 months now. We talk about this all the time on the podcast and on streams and that, this Rodri backup situation. And I think, and I grew more strong in this opinion at the end of the season, I think I back Kovacic to play that role when Rodri can't do it. I think a year with Pep Guardiola's system, playing in the midfield, and having watched Rodri do it for a year, I think there's a lot to be said for that. And anybody that comes in brand new would have to learn it. Probably the most number one difficult position to learn. It took Rodri some time, as you remember.
You know what's mad actually, right? I seen some guy before. I was in Curry's and was speaking to some guy, a City fan, and we were speaking about Rodri, and he went, "Do you remember people used to call him Plodri?"
Yeah.
And I just burst out laughing. I was like, "Oh God, I forgot that people used to call him Plodri, man."
He was never as bad as people made him out to be. That's my.
He wasn't.
It wasn't as bad. His first season wasn't as bad as people said it was. Anyway, okay. So back to the point. I think Kovacic can do it, mate. And he's almost the right profile. Like if you were going to go sign somebody to do it, I feel like he's the right profile. An aging veteran, loads of experience, very intelligent, pretty press resistant. So he's almost the type of guy you would go and sign who would be happy to be, the second. Rodri. So I feel like maybe the answer is already here, but I could absolutely be talked into a signing there. Bruno G would be great, but I don't know that you necessarily have to go and splash all of that cash, because I don't think we're desperate. But I know a lot of people disagree with me. But
no, my only problem on the Kovacic thing, right, is can he cover the ground as a solo DM? That's my only issue because, yeah, on the ball, amazing, press resistant, experience, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, he ticks all the boxes. The one box, and it's probably the most important box, is can he cover the ground? And I feel like that's really why Calvin Phillips just didn't work at City, because he couldn't cover the ground as a solo six in the City team. That's my issue. And I don't know if I'd be satisfied with Kovacic being my backup DM, especially right when we spent 21 million quid. Like, you're not telling me that you can't go and buy someone who can just do the job. But honestly, if they don't and Kovacic works, then fair play for you for recommending it. But for me, I just think that, listen, our transfer spend this summer is going to be low. Yeah, it's going to be seriously low.
It feels that way.
Like, you've spent 20 million on Savio. Go and get someone, whether it's Kimmich at 40, whether it's Bruno at 80. It takes you spend maximum 200 million quid, maximum. With all the players that you're going to be selling as well, all the academy players and that, you're going to have a net spend of around 20 million quid. I just think that it's not worth the risk having Kovacic there, because for me, based off what I've seen last year, I don't personally think he'd be good enough. I just don't think he'd cover the ground. Do you not think he's a bit too slow in that sense of if he was there on his own?
I don't, because I think it's I don't know, this covering the ground business feels certainly when it comes to Rodri, and he said this, it's more about which ground to cover, knowing where to be, than it is actual number of yards covered or meters, as you say over there. I think when Rodri's been asked what was his biggest learning curve, it was all about where to be rather than like how much actual running you're doing. And I just think Kovacic has the experience now, being there a year, watching Rodri, being with Pep, to know where to be, probably ahead of anybody who would come in, cold, and have to learn it from the start. So, like I said, I'm a bit on the fence. I feel like Kovacic could do it, but I would definitely not be opposed to somebody else coming in and trying it out. I just think it's a super difficult profile to land. Somebody who would be willing to be his backup and have to fight against De Bruyne and Foden. If it's say a 6-8 hybrid, right, like a Bruno, you're fighting Rodri, the best in the business, and you're fighting KDB and Foden, two of the best in the business, to get any playing time. So it's such a difficult profile to find. And I feel like you might have something already there as a short-term solution. I think you've got to find a 6-8 hybrid long-term, which I think Bruno G would probably be my number one choice.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Guys, let us know what your thoughts are in the comments section. Make sure you guys are smashing a like and make sure you're subscribing as well. So if your thoughts then... Oh, go on.
Can I ask you one? So you said, you talked about the lone six role, right? Are you convinced that that is what we need and not a two-person solution or
No, I think we need a 6-8. I think we need Gundogan. That's the guy. We need a Gundogan. We need a guy that can play double pivot with Rodri, offer us a little bit more going forward than someone like a Kovacic, but someone who can also fill in and play in the six. We need Gundogan.
Did you feel that Foden sort of decided to be Gundogan towards the end of the Euros because nobody else would do it?
Yeah, no, I did.
Because Bellingham wasn't going to do it. He wasn't going to drop next to Rice. He can't do it. And who else?
Well, you had
anyway, you get my point. I felt like Phil sacrificed himself to drop a bit deeper and actually looked a lot like Gundogan, in that Gundogan used to knit things together for City ahead of Rodri, and was sort of that knitting between Rodri and the forwards. I felt like Phil felt like he had to do that because nobody else was bloody doing it. So
no, you are right. We had no play out for midfield for like England, but yeah, I think we need a player who can play 6 and 8, and I don't think there'd be a problem with the game time, because I honestly think that you get so much game time. You know, you look at Rodri, right? You know, you can reduce his minutes by 10%, right? That's a lot of minutes. If you actually have a look, that's a lot of minutes he can play there. So 10% of the minutes that Rodri played last year, all competitions, that can be given to Bruno G. You've all got to accept that Kevin De Bruyne will get injured this season. Yeah, he's just going to get injured. There's no point in going into the season thinking he's going to stay fit. It's highly unlikely that he's going to stay fit. So when he's out, you're automatically be starting anyway. And Phil Foden's been a lot of football, football over the last year or two. He's going to need to be rotated. And actually, there'll be some games that he doesn't want to play Kevin De Bruyne and Foden as a tactical situation.
Yep.
So I don't think there'll be a problem at all with minutes if you buy a 6 and an 8. Obviously, if you buy a number 6, an out-and-out DM, I think you do have a problem. And that's why I've said for 2 years now, basically, that whoever you bring in, I don't think it can be a 6, because I think that's part of the problem that Phillips had as well, in the sense that, like, you're just on the bench game after game after game after game. Oh, we need to go in. Oh, well, we're not match fit. And then everyone criticizes the player because he drops a stinker. Well, no, yeah, it's Premier League football. It's elite level sport. You can't just drop a player in having not played for 2-3 weeks and expect them to do well, especially at this level. So for me, it has to be someone like a Kimmich. It has to be someone like a Bruno. That's why I was a little bit more like on João Neves, who's obviously looking like he's gone PSG anyway. So yeah, we'll have to see. But yeah, to answer your question, it would be a hybrid 6-8 role. Big up to Tinsay, says if Haaland, KDB, Diaz, Stones, Walker, Gundo, Grealish didn't drop off massively, injury, transfer, or just bad, would Rodri really be that important? I think Rodri's absolutely crucial to the team. Yeah. No matter who's dropping off or who's playing well. I think genuinely, I think he's the best CDM of all time. I think it's certainly a shout for it. You can't laugh at me. It's not an outrageous opinion. Like, in my opinion, he's better than Busquets, because if you said to me, well, Busquets was better than Rodri doing the defensive work on the ball, first of all, I can argue that that's not the case. And second of all, Rodri is so clear of Busquets in an advanced position. It's absolutely ridiculous. So even if you say that Busquets was better on the ball, or he's better playing out from the back, which is, if it's true, it's marginal at best.
It's close, yeah.
Then what Rodri does going forward completely would outweigh that anyway. So I genuinely think there's a shout for Rodri being the best of all time. I still think that, obviously, I think if he can win the World Cup, or he can win another Champions League with City, or captain us to something, I think that would really help his cause. But yeah, to answer the question, I think it's absolutely huge.
Yeah, you're not going to find a bigger Rodri fan in the world than me. So,
Actually, a question about Walker, because this is a player. It's gone a bit sour, really, and if you think about it, it's a bit sad the way this has gone, because it was only 18 months ago or so that everyone was loving him. It was like, he's the only player that can play against Mbappe and Vinny Jr. So now, a lot of City fans, are just they want him gone. They really don't like the interviews that he's been doing, which I think is a mistake, to be honest with you. I don't know why he's doing so many. Obviously, last season was a poor season from him. Euros somehow winged his way into the team of the tournament. But what's your sort of views on Walker? Would you let him go as well, or would you keep him around?
I'll start by saying nice things about Kyle Walker. Yeah, one of Pep's best signings. Absolutely critical to all the success since Pep's arrived. Yeah, probably the only sort of what we would call a lockdown fullback, in that he's stopping the best wingers in the world. Like, he has that sort of reputation. I think he's come a long way himself tactically since coming from Spurs, in that the build-up part of Pep's game is, I think, difficult to learn. I think John Stones found that out. But I think both he and Stones have mastered the patient build-up that Pep has brought to City. So I'll give him credit for that. I do think the start of last season has been forgotten. Do you remember how well he started last season? Like the first 6-7 games, he was probably the best version of Kyle Walker I've seen at City, and that's because he had attacking contributions that we haven't seen since. So those are all the nice things I would like to say about Kyle Walker. He is probably my least favorite City player. Not that it's hard to dislike him because he is a City player, and our dads told us you can't. If they're wearing the blue shirt, you back them and that. But yeah, I really have to separate his on the pitch stuff from his personal life and the whole interviewing thing that you just brought up as being a City captain. And some of the things he says are just absolutely baffling when there's a much simpler, more polite and political answer that you could make that he could have chosen instead of the one that he gave, which riles up City fans, or he's not gassing up his fellow City players like he should be as the captain. Yeah, the one where he said he would gladly give away all of his multiple trophies to win. You don't have to say that. You can say how important winning the Euros is to you without saying that you would give up trophies at City. Anyway, I just think he's a bit dim and not the best spokesperson for City as the captain. I wish they would have picked somebody else. I'll be honest with you. When he was announced, the only reason I care about who the Man City captain is it's because that's the person who gets to lift the trophies and will be forever enshrined in the photographs of the trophy lifts, right? You remember the Vinny holding the first FA Cup and Premier League and all that, and that's like, and then Gundo when lifting the Champions League. That's the only thing that's important to me about who the captain is, because I feel like it's not necessarily that big of a thing in terms of the team dynamic. In terms of the way they play, who the captain is doesn't matter to me. I'll tell you this: when he was announced as captain last year, I could not picture him holding a trophy, and that bothered me. I'm like, there's no way Kyle Walker is going to hold up a trophy for Man City. I couldn't picture it. I could picture it with like Gundogan and company and that, but it was for that reason I wanted a Rodri or a KDB to be the captain, even Ruben Diaz. So. Yeah, I really struggle with Kyle Walker, mate. If we're just talking about on the pitch, though, I think he is regressing a bit. I think some of the blame he's gotten for what happened in the Euros has been way over the top. I think that there was defensive marking was a bit of a shambles, especially in transitions, and he was often hung out to dry by some midfielders who were not tracking their men. But yeah, my confidence in Kyle is slipping, and the off the field stuff doesn't help. Is it time to go? I don't know. It's difficult. I don't see a natural replacement in the squad already.
Well, replacement. There's not a Kyle Walker replacement, but I think Akanji could do a solid job. Obviously, it's not the same as Walker in the way he plays, but I think he could do a solid job for us.
That's a great point. I actually love it when we go 4 centre backs across the back. So that would be like an Ake or Vardio on the left and then a Akanji on the right. I absolutely love that. I thought that was the best we've ever looked defensively, to be honest with you. So yeah, if we wanted to go that route where the right back had more of a profile like a Vardio, you could find the right-footed Vardio, we'd be cooking. But Akanji would fit as well. But he's not young. I guess I'm saying I don't see who the younger right back could be. You know what I mean?
Well, especially if you don't see Rico as a right back. A lot of people see him as a midfielder. But yeah, listen, if it was me, bro, I'd keep him as a squad rotation player, Walker. But I've said many times, I think if you told him that, I don't think he'd accept it, and I think he'd want to leave. So then I have to say, right, well, what do I do? Do I promise you to start, or do I let you leave? And I'm not promising to start. So if it was me, I think he'd end up leaving if I was the manager, because I wouldn't have him as my number one starter. I'd have Akanji as my starter, and I don't think he'd accept that. I think he's 34.
Yeah.
And I think if you went to him and say, yeah, we want to keep you, mate, but you're not going to be starting games. It's going to be Akanji, and maybe even Rico might be ahead of you nowadays. We don't know, potentially, whatever. is he going to sit there and go, "Yeah, all right"? No, he's probably not. He's probably looking. Well, hang on a minute. I've already want to go back to Sheffield United. You know, Saudi are there. I could get loads of money off Saudi, so it wouldn't surprise me if he left.
Yeah. I mean, if Pep told him that, I'm with you. If Pep told him you're not, you're not my main guy at right back, then I would not surprise me if he did move. So.
Yeah, certainly interesting. We'll see what happens. And of course, we keep seeing on Twitter that Saudis are interested in him. And of course, you know, he's got a lot of money to spend. You know what I mean? He's just been to court and that. You know what I mean? So he's got the details of that have been released, and it's a lot of money that he's got to pay.
Yeah, that stuff. When you've got a split family like he's got, that moving to another country seems like a very difficult thing to do.
It is difficult, I suppose.
It's got to be, right? Because you essentially leaving your kids, unless you're taking the whole crew to Saudi with you, your multiple families. So I don't know. It seems like a long shot to me that he ends up so far away.
Yeah, we'll see. Of course, if he goes to Sheffield United, he's not going to be on the same money that he's on at City. So I don't know. Interesting. We'll have to see what happens. But whatever happens, for me, Akanji's my number one right back going into next season.
Fair enough. Love Akanji.
Yeah, exactly. Same here. Maybe Akanji doesn't play particularly well at right back. Maybe Walker ends up coming to the fold, whatever. But I'm just saying, going into the season, my plan would be to start Akanji as the right back, you know, and go back to that 4 centre backs at the back that Mo spoke about.
I hadn't thought about that too much, mate, but I love that actually. Yeah, I love it.
Let's have a look what Benji's saying. Member for 4 months says, I agree we need a Rodri backup, but as for an 8, is Rico being overlooked as that 8? Same height and stature as Gundo, and technique is the same. It probably is being
technique is the same as crazy, mate. Gundo is like elite technician, mate.
That's true. That's true. He probably is being overlooked a little bit, if we're being honest with you, because he's been thrown into the deep end multiple times. And, you know, he's never sank, really. You know what I mean? He's looked good most of the time. But last year, he threw him in at Emirates, didn't he? You know what I mean? Did a good job there as well. One of the better players on the day. I certainly think that, again, you know what I mean? If you've got Foden, you got Kevin De Bruyne, right? You got Oscar Bob, right? You've still got your Kovacic and Nunes at this moment in time. I'm not sure what good Nunes is for at the moment, you know. And you got Rico who can throw him in, and he trusts Rico. He trusts Rico. He does. You can't. He's not. If you tell him no, he doesn't trust him. We wouldn't have started him at Emirates. You know what I mean? He wouldn't have played him in the year that the 115 came out, like, for so long, because if he didn't trust him, he trusts Rico. He likes Rico. Rico's just got to keep battling. He's got to keep being patient because he's in a difficult position in terms of like competing with Kevin De Bruyne, Foden, Kovacic, and that. And the right back thing is still a little bit not 100% sure. Maybe in a couple of years when he's got a bit more physical, he's developed a little bit, maybe he'll be all right. Just keep on doing what he's doing. Like, there's no rush. He's what, 19, 20? Keep doing what you're doing if you're Rico.
I think the discussion around Rico all revolves around what Rico's own ambitions are. Like, is he happy to stay and be an excellent, you know, sort of Swiss Army knife at City, come in when you needed, play multiple positions when you needed, and is he going to be happy with that, or does he see himself now at an age where he wants to establish himself as, you know, in a permanent position at a club, where he, you know, there's no doubt about what position he plays, and he sort of is the starting, let's say, right back or starting 8 for a Premier League side. It's all about him. Is he happy to stay and play minutes where he can get them, win trophies, and continue to be taught under Pep? Or is he saying, you know, I guess sort of like Cole Palmer's decision, the same decision Cole Palmer had to make, I think. And Cole chose to get more minutes elsewhere, and it paid off for him. Rico might look at that and say, yeah, I sort of fancy that. Or he might be happy to say, I'll stay and I'm trusted. I'll get minutes. I might have to be patient about them, and I'll win trophies. So I think the conversation really comes down to what he wants to do.
I hope he stays, and I think he should stay, because he's not in the Cole Palmer situation where Palmer was getting literally no minutes, and when he was getting minutes, he was being stuck out on the left wing. which is probably the worst position you could play Cole Palmer. Rico is getting minutes. You know, he played 1,600 minutes last year. You know what I mean? And I think if he can get over 2,000 minutes this year, I think that's a really, really good progression. Still very young. And, you know, Pep clearly likes him and clearly backs him. And, you know, at the end of the day, you should look at Foden really and go, right, you be patient. And Palmer was in a different situation in the sense that he just wasn't getting the minutes whatsoever.
That's true.
Everyone who knew Cole Palmer, who'd seen him develop, knew that he was good enough. You know what I mean? I wanted him to stay at City because I knew how good he was. And I just think he backed himself. You know what I mean? And Rico might back himself, but he's not in the same desperate situation as Palmer was because Palmer just wasn't playing, you know?
I always say that Palmer found himself behind no right winger on the depth chart. Like, you talk about the depth chart, it was, you know, it was going to be Bernardo, Foden. And then there were times when it was really no right winger, or Kyle Walker was the right winger before Cole would even get a look in. So, yeah, I don't blame him. Don't blame him at all.
All right, cool. Guys, make sure you drop a like on the stream. Make sure you subscribe if you've not done so already. And make sure you obviously subscribe to the Noisy Pod. Link in the description and all podcast apps as well. Bro, what are your expectations for next season? Is it just simply to win the league again? Champions League, we've won one. Probably should have won against Real Madrid. We let ourselves down probably slightly in that game. But yeah, what's your ambitions for this year?
I was thinking about this morning, LB, and I was reminded that even though we had a brilliant season and we were very good for large parts of it, we also had some struggles. And there were players that were either new or injured or had down seasons versus the prior, who I think this season we should be excited about the potential there. So you could potentially get a better season out of Jack Grealish, right? It probably couldn't get much worse. So you could get a bump from Grealish. You could continue to see the development of both Doku and Vardio, who were, you know, excellent for large parts of the season. Doku probably a bit more sort of inconsistent, but when he was hitting, you could see that there's real potential there.
And finished really strong.
Yeah. Vardio was on like a steady climb.
Oh,
yeah,
I thought Gavardio was excellent last year.
He was amazing. And I'm not suggesting he started out low. I'm just saying he definitely ramped up.
He did.
Yeah. So that's something I think to look forward. Second season of both those two players. I would argue that even Erling Haaland wasn't finishing at a rate that he's probably capable of. So if you see a return to the mean for him in terms of goal per game, you could get a pickup from Erling Haaland. You missed Kevin De Bruyne for half a season. He's had the summer to get fitness back, playing with Belgium and that. So he should be ready to go, I think, come the start of the season. You get a pickup there. You get a realization, I think, from Guardiola that Foden has to play in the middle, right? You get Foden in the middle for an entire season. Who knows? I mean, sky's the limit, as Tattoo says. When it comes to Foden centrally, you've got Oscar Bob, who scored the goal of the season for me against Newcastle. And like we've said, Pep trusts him, and I think there's going to be minutes for him. So you've got him on the up. Rico Lewis could get more minutes, and we just discussed him. Brilliant. Who knows what you're going to get out of Savio on the right, but that's exciting. I don't know that you got Rodri, the best player in the world. I don't know that he can get any better, but
something that you've not mentioned.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think you mentioned it. Is and Jay just put it in the chat. Is last year our defense was actually quite poor. We conceded quite a lot of goals, sloppy goals as well. I'm looking at this going, okay, well, Stones last year was sort of in the Grealish camp of just couldn't get going. You know, constantly in and out of the injury room. Diaz, not great for the 2/3 of the season. Felt like he finished. I felt like he finished the season strong and has had a really good Euros from what I've seen. Could we see a potential return of the Diaz-John Stones combination? Because we didn't really see that last year. I don't know if anyone wants to go and find the stat.
He loves the Kanji. loves the kanji.
Well, yeah, exactly. Of how many times Diaz and Stones played with each other last year, I can't imagine it was that many. Can't imagine it was that many. So could we potentially get our defence cooking? Because you know what? I remember last year I predicted that City would get close to the Chelsea defensive record when we signed Gvardiol, and obviously that was it was an embarrassing, shocking take because it never happened in the end. But I genuinely think like this year our defence, it has to be better than last year because last year wasn't particularly strong, and I just think if we can get that Diaz and Stones combination going again, bro. You know what I mean? Well, like you say, Gvardiol just carries on and Akanji it right back instead of Walker. Like our defense could go up a notch.
There's reasons to be really excited, mate. Now not all of those things that I mentioned. I think I rattled off like 8 or 9 things there. They're not all going to hit, right? And there'll be players who maybe nose off after a good season last season. But I think there are enough opportunities for improvement over last season. Again, we were great. What was that winning or unbeaten streak we went on at the second half of the year? It was incredible.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying we were poor. We were excellent in the main, but there were certainly things that could improve next season. So I think as City fans, we should be really excited about it, regardless of how many incomings we get. I think there's already enough here to be super excited. I know everybody gets wound up about trophies and that, and it's because there's no football on. Transfers become trophies, but let me tell you, transfers are not trophies, right? Declan Rice was the biggest transfer, still has 0 trophies. Yeah, it didn't mean trophies for Arsenal signing the big hitter like Rice. So I know we have to enjoy it because it's all we've really got now that the tournaments are over and the season hasn't started yet. But I think if we just chill a bit, there's plenty to be excited about that already exists at the club that could improve over last year.
I don't think I've ever heard that. Transfers are not trophies.
That's one of my favorite tweets, mate.
That is insane, bro.
Yeah.
That's so true. I mean, you see it with United fans, don't you, with this Euro guy? Jeez,
yeah, they're the main culprits.
Give it a rest, will ya? You know what I mean? It's crazy. It's crazy. Nah, you know what? I'm super excited for next season, man. Like today, my excitement levels have just gone through the roof with the signing of Savio. I'm ready for it now. You know what I mean? I can't wait. I just think that we're going to see again. I'm looking forward to seeing Pep reinvent the wheel because he's definitely going to change the system again because he does every year. And you'll see some players dip in form. You'll see some players pick up in form, and it'll be interesting to see how that works out. And if you actually look at last year, I think a lot of players last year didn't have great seasons. Bernardo didn't have a particularly great season. Haaland wasn't as good as he was in the first year. Grealish wasn't particularly great. Kevin De Bruyne missed a full season. Who else? Walker, not particularly great. Stones wasn't there. Diaz didn't have his best season. Even if you just get, a few of them getting better. I mean, we won the league last year, and just and you could say like 6-7 players didn't have great seasons. If some of them can get better, what season we could be in for?
I spent most of last season waiting for him to do the Stones thing again. That's what last season was for me. When are you going to do the thing where we were amazing and we won the treble? When are you going to do that? And he rarely got to it. But
no, well, that's because Stones just couldn't get fit, could he? And even you've seen it in the FA Cup final, like he was just never fit. I think he played him there as a sentimental get there, but he just wasn't fit, was it?
My point is, like, what's the experiment going to be this year? I felt like last year there was loads of experimenting until the point where he thought, and I feel like we do this quite a bit, LB, is, that they use the term, we measured it. Where you measure something where you lose just as many games as possible before you have to win the league. Yeah. You dick about with your format and your system and that until mathematically you really can't lose any more games. And then
that's what he does.
And you just win out. It feels, and who I bet it feels like that more to is opposition fans.
Oh,
that City that Pep in particular just dicks about for as long as he can, and then says, right, when you sit up in your chair with your control and you say, right, I'm playing for real now.
Yeah. That's
what he does.
What he does.
Yeah.
But we come out the Arsenal game, 31st of March. Yeah, we 10 games left or whatever, and we needed to win every single game.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And we did it. You know what I mean? So let's see how we get on next
Amazing.
year, man. But listen, I'm super excited. It's going to be class, guys. Will we sign another player? Savio through the door. If you've not already done so, go and watch today's party stream that I did earlier on the channel. Savio signed. Looking forward to see how he gets on. Big up to Ferg. Just sent in a member chat. Says, how many goals is Haaland scoring in the Prem this season? Ooh. How many scored last year?
In the 30s, was it?
Last year he got 27 last year in the league and 36 the year before. So I'm going to go, barring no injuries, I'm going to go 34.
Yeah, somewhere in between. I think it's going to be tough, mate. Like I said, we're going to be seeing more low blocks than ever, I feel. And it's going to be tough on Haaland. But Savio and Doku will be feeding him, hopefully.
Exactly. Foden and Kev in the middle. We'll be there. We'll be there. What have you got coming up on your channel, mate? You got anything, any podcast coming out soon?
We've really got, so like I said, we got the US tour coming. So we're all sort of over here in the States gearing up for that. There's going to be 4 games. Joey and I, my podcast partner, will be at the one in Columbus. So we're hoping to see anybody either, coming in from across the pond or US-based supporters. Looking forward to meeting you out there. And in terms of pods, we usually sort of take the summer off. Like we make no commitments and no promises. So we may do a pop-up pod here and there now that the summer tournaments are over and the US tour is about to begin. We'll probably do something. But if you would subscribe to us on any podcast app, it's under Noisy Neighbors Podcast. So I appreciate you having me on, LB.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it. And which game did you say you was going to again?
It's against Chelsea and it's in Columbus, Ohio, August 2nd, I think.
Oh, okay, cool. That's the last game.
Yes.
That's the last game. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, be interesting to see. I am looking forward to pre-season. I've said, Jacob Wright should be playing there, to get some minutes for him. And obviously just get some minutes into the legs of these players, Some of them have had time off. So Haaland should be fresh. So that should be good. Oscar Bob will get game time. Grealish looks like he's dropped a few pounds as well. He's been working really hard in
carnivore diet.
Maybe it's a carnivore diet, man. Maybe it is. I don't know.
Full circle, mate. Full circle.
Yeah, exactly. Guys, hopefully you enjoyed tonight's show, man. If you did, please smash a like on the stream. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you're watching on Twitter, then make sure you give us a follow. And I'll be back tomorrow. Peace out. See you later.